Before we touch wastewater permits, I want you to notice something. You already live inside limits every day. Speed limits, food expiry dates, max occupancy signs in an elevator, do not exceed on a bridge, max fill line on a detergent bottle. Those numbers are not there to annoy you. They are there because someone, somewhere, learned the hard way what happens when humans push too far. So when you hear permit limits in wastewater, I don't want your brain to hear punishment, paperwork, fear. I want your brain to hear guardrails, because that's what they are. And if you're becoming an operator, you're becoming someone trusted to drive the road safely every day without crashing into the river. Picture this. You're driving on a mountain road. The road is narrow. Fog is thick. There's a steep drop on the side. And then you see it, a metal guardrail running along the edge. Now here's the key question. Do you drive with your tires touching the guardrail the entire way? No, because even if you don't break the law, you're one small mistake away from disaster. Good drivers don't aim for the guardrail, they aim for the center of the lane. That's the difference between compliance and performance. Compliance says, I didn't hit the guardrail. Performance says, I stayed far enough away that even if something goes wrong, I still don't fall. Now let's bring it to wastewater. Imagine your plant discharge is within its legal limits today. BOD and TSS are under the limit. The amount of nitrogen in your wastewater in the form of ammonia is also under the limit. Pathogen indicators like E. coli and fecal coliform 2 are under the limit. Here's the question. Does that automatically mean the river is thriving? Some of you might say yes because the law says it's safe. Some of you might hesitate. Some of you might ponder and give me a maybe, I don't know, depends. Good. That hesitation is the beginning of operator thinking. Now let's return to the river scene from the previous section. You are a fish. You feel water move through your gills like breathing. Today, the water looks clear. Today, there is enough oxygen. Today, nothing smells rotten. And then you notice something subtle. The river feels stressed. Not dead, not catastrophic, but stressed. The river feels like a human who is technically not sick, but is running on 3 hours of sleep, no food, and a pounding headache. That fish doesn't read your permit. That fish experiences the consequences of how you run your plant. This is the moment we install the key truth. The permit protects the river from disaster. Performance protects the river from stress. Here's the myth that traps new operators. If we meet the permit limit, we're doing great. Now, the stronger truth. Meeting the limit is not excellence. It is the minimum. Think of it like this. Passing a driving test doesn't make you a great driver. It makes you legally allowed to drive. A bridge not collapsing doesn't mean it's strong. It means it hasn't failed yet. So in wastewater, compliance is the floor. Performance is the craft. And as an operator, your identity is not, I meet the floor. Your identity is, I keep the river stable. Compliance means your effluent results stay within the limits written in your permit. That's it. Not politics, not drama, numbers, limits, documentation. And the reason those limits exist is because of the invisible enemies you just learned. BOD steals oxygen. TSS clouds and smother habitat. Ammonia can poison gills and also trigger oxygen demand during conversion. Pathogen indicators like E. coli and fecal coliform 2 are under the limit. So the permit is basically the river saying, keep these enemies below these levels, and prove it with monitoring. In the U.S., most discharges are regulated through something called NPDES, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. Here's the conceptual idea. If your plant discharges into a river, lake, or ocean, you need a permit that tells you what you're allowed to discharge, how much, and how often you must measure it. That permit is like a public contract between a plant, receiving river, and affected community. You are not just running equipment, you're keeping a public promise. In Canada, we introduce WESR, Wastewater Systems Effluent Regulations. Same spirit, different name. WESR represents baseline national standards. Baseline means not gold medal plant operation, not perfect river protection, but minimum environmental guardrails. So both countries are saying something similar. Here is the minimum line you must not cross. Now we draw a simple picture in the learner's mind. Two bars. Bar A, the permit limit. Bar B, your actual performance. Now we will look at three realities. Scenario 1, below the limit with stability. Effluent is below limit, trends are steady, margins are comfortable. This is a healthy plant. Scenario 2, right near the limit. Effluent is still legal, but one upset, one rain event, one equipment issue, and you will cross the line. This plant is legal, but fragile. Scenario 3, below the limit with cushion. Not only legal, but resilient. This is the operator mindset we're training. Don't chase the limit, build margin, because the river doesn't care about your intent. The river responds to your output. Let's make this real. I've seen plants where BOD was under limit, TSS was under limit, but the aeration tank told a different story. DO was swinging, mixed liquor looked stressed, nitrification was flickering on and off. Operators were constantly reacting instead of controlling. Technically compliant, but operationally shaky. That's like a car that technically passes inspection, but the engine is knocking and the brakes squeal. You might not crash today, but you're living near failure. Performance is what keeps you away from failure. Now, learners always ask the right question. How do they even know we met the limit? Beautiful, because that's where operators become professionals. We know through sampling, lab testing, daily logs, and reporting. And later in this program, you'll learn where samples are taken, why timing matters, how lab tests represent the invisible enemies, and how results turn into compliance reporting. But right now, I want you to feel the meaning of that. Those numbers are not just paperwork, they are evidence of protection. Now let's talk about exam brain. On exams, you'll see prompts like effluent must not exceed blank milligrams per liter. A permit violation occurs when blank. Which parameter is commonly regulated in secondary effluent? Which pathogen indicator relate to public health? That is compliance thinking. But you'll also see performance thinking. If ammonia increases, what happens to oxygen demand? If influent BOD spikes, what process feels it first? If DO drops, what risks increase? That's the operator level. So I want you to hold this. Compliance is what you must meet. Performance is how you survive and stay stable long-term while meeting it. Now I'm going to whisper the first line of mass balance thinking. No equations, just logic. If more BOD-containing waste enters your treatment plant than your waste-eating microorganisms can remove, what happens? The waste accumulates. Some of the waste survives through the plant. It shows up in effluent wastewater and enters the receiving river. It moves you closer to the regulatory limit. That's it. That one sentence is the seed of all wastewater math later. You already understand it. Let's remove a common regulation fear. Regulation is not there to catch you. It is there because plants fail, humans make mistakes, storms happen, pumps break, and power goes out. And when that happens, the river needs protection. So the regulator is not your enemy. Your enemy is denial, sloppy sampling, ignoring trends, running near the edge, and waiting for failure to teach you. Now zoom out beyond the plant. Downstream, there might be kids playing in the water, farms irrigating crops, a drinking water intake, a community trusting that the river is safe. When you meet permit limits, you protect trust. When you run with margin, you protect stability. And now we're ready for the next step, where we'll follow one simple event like a high BOD load and watch how it moves through the system like a chain reaction.